We're just going to continue the 45, 45, 90 triangles. So we'll just go over a couple of examples just to kind of review a little bit. In this first example, we're going to label our notes. Remember, it is continued. We have talked about this. And then let's go ahead and jump in. So for our first example here, we have 1 degree mentioned that's a 45-degree angle. And we also have our 90-degree angle symbol. That means that this triangle is absolutely a 45, 45, 90. If I have a right angle symbol and just one angle listed as 45 degrees, it is a 45, 45, 90 for sure. So remember, if you get confused about the hypotenuse, I'm just going to highlight the right angle symbol here. And remember, when I draw across from it, I land on the hypotenuse. So this leg right here, that is the hypotenuse, which is the longest side of our right triangle. And also remember, since we know for sure it's a 45, 45, 90, then our legs are congruent, which means if that's an X, this is also an X. So whatever these measurements are, they're congruent, which means I'm going to put congruent marks on my triangle. The hypotenuse, which is always across from the right angle symbol, which I highlighted in yellow, this is X root 2. So remember, that's what we're always going to use for 45, 45, 90 triangles. So I know that this equals X, I know that this equals X, and I know that this is X root 2. So remember, you either have a level 1 or a level 2 problem here. This is certainly level 1. Remember, level 1 is when a leg is given. If you know what the leg is, then you just stick that number right in front of root 2, and that's going to give you the measure for the hypotenuse. So each leg is 5 units. The hypotenuse is going to be 5 square root 2. And that's going to be it for this example. Let's go ahead and take a look at another example after I box in my answer here. So now we're going to take a look at level 2. Remember, for level 2, the hypotenuse is given. So I'm going to give you a second just to write that down. And please remember, because we're going to have a bunch of right triangles all mixed up. Remember, when you have a 45, 45, 90, you're going to have a right angle symbol, and at least one of those right angle or one of those other measurements of angles are going to be 45 degrees. So since I see the right angle and the 45 degrees, I know this is X, X, X root 2. And remember, I know that X root 2 is always across from the right angle symbol. So that is given to us. We know that X root 2 equals 18. I'm going to go ahead and label my picture. So these are just X's. Remember, level 2, we have to solve. And remember, earlier in class, we talked about what the square root of 2 is. And the square root of 2 is approximately 1.4142. And we are certainly going to use that because we just have our basic 4-function calculator with us. So what we're going to do is we're going to rewrite and then solve for X. So 18 equals X root 2. But remember, root 2 is 1.4142. I think it is. Let me double check. Yes, it is. All right, so we're going to divide by root 2. But what is root 2 in our calculator? 1.4142. So those are going to cancel out, and that's just going to leave X. So when you divide this out, you are going to get X to equal 12.728. However, remember, we are rounding to the single place behind the decimal point. So it's either going to be 12.7 or 12.8. It's going to say 12.7 because that number is less than 5. So X is approximate because we rounded. And that's going to be the answer for that. Okay, So big takeaway here. Remember I said that everything is going to get all mixed up. So what you're going to do is you're going to fill in this box based on the verbal instructions that I'm giving you. So good for you for having your volume up. If the triangle has a right angle and a 45-degree angle, then I use x root 2. You need to make sure that you take notes, make sure you fill in that box. If you need it repeated, then you can rewind to fill that in. Now, let's take a look at what our assignment is for today. Our assignment is just going to be practice day 2. And practice day 2, I am about to tell you the page number on that. Just let me zoom in a little bit here. Practice day 2 is going to start on page 18. There's a lot of problems on here. We are only going to do the odds. So make sure you only write down the odds. That's just going to cut it in half for us, so not too much. And it's all sorts of different levels. You'll have level 1 and level 2. Just remember to make things a little bit easier on us. Remember root 2. Whenever you need to divide by root 2, you're going to divide by 1.4142. And really, that's just for level 2.